Okay, hey, we're recording. Y'all are recording. So let me introduce Josh. Okay, everybody, this is Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Everybody say hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
In all seriousness, let me just say, this is the most evangelistic guy I know. And Rev Church has baptized more folks than I know of anybody. Have a passion for the unchurched that is unwavering. If you could just get a good hairdo, we'd be in good shape. I'm just saying.
I'm losing my hair.
Just get
It's
in shape.
going away.
If you could just get in shape.
It's going away.
Let's hear what you guys say, bro. Can't wait to hear.
So yeah, I'm not bragging, but I just want to tell you guys, like, if you want to know if I'm qualified to teach you guys on this, 6 years, we've had about 1,300 decisions, baptized about 800 to 900 people. We're consistently in the top 10 or 20 in the state every year since the church has started in baptisms for the TBC. And so we feel like in this area we're pretty good. We've had to work on keeping those people and all the stuff that I'm not good at, but that's where we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So we've got a saying at our church. We do something we're kicking off next year called the Growth Track. And we teach people, first and foremost, the first session is all about the mission of our church. And these guys will tell you, I got 3 people with me that are from my staff, and I'm going to refer to them a couple times just to back up some of the points. Y'all better get it right. And so, so this is what we say when we kick that off, this whole first part, because our thing is we want people to know God. We want them to get saved, right? Then we want them to find freedom, which means we want them to get in a group so that they can confess their sins one to another, so that they can find healing. The prayer of a righteous person leads to healing. It's kind of that Church of the Highlands deal. And then we want them to figure out what their spiritual gifts are. And then we want them to make a difference with those spiritual gifts. That's the steps that we go down. We're trying to figure out, where are you in this process? If you just got saved, but you're an addict, you're not ready to serve, you got to find freedom. So the first one is know Jesus. We want people to know Jesus, and this is our saying. We consider reaching people who do not know God personally to be one of our greatest responsibilities. Our Sunday services are for people at all stages in their spiritual journey, but are primarily designed for those who do not yet have a genuine relationship with Jesus. And most of us, that's the reason we got into church planting, right? Is because we want to see people get saved. We've heard people say it's the most effective form of evangelism that there is. That, man, if you plant a church, you'll reach more people than anything else. That's why I got into it, is because I wanted to see people get saved. The number one reason we started Revolution was not to create a country club. It was not to, and I say all this as a preface just to make sure that if you didn't start your church for this reason, evangelism is going to be tough for you. If you started your church to make it a country club, or make it something that you're going to swap sheep and you're going to steal the people down the road from the other church and get their givers or whatever and build your own building, then you won't see people come to know the Lord, because lost people ain't going to touch your church with a 10-foot pole. But the number one reason we do Revolution Church is because we are on mission. I'm getting ready to do a series called Reach 931. 931 is our area code. And I'm going to preach through the lost coin, the lost sheep, and the prodigal son. And we say this in our growth track. The thing that is so interesting about all 3 of those parables, and in every instance, the person left something that was found in order to go find something that was lost. And that's our whole vision, is, hey, you've been a Christian for a long time, praise Jesus, but you're a part of the team that is going to reach people, and it's not about you anymore. And so I just want to go through the 10 commandments that I would give you guys, 10 just practical points that would help you, as far as I think it gives a good picture of our church and who we are and kind of how we do stuff. And
don't go so fast. I got to type this stuff out, man.
Do what?
You're going too fast. It's hard to get it all typed out.
I can email this to everybody too. But
then I'd have to answer my emails. Just saying. Go ahead.
And I've got some extra stuff too, that we kind of, the language we use with our people, and some of the stuff we're starting, like with the growth track is like a next steps class sort of deal. Number 1, get the right gospel. Get the right gospel. Get the right gospel. And I say that's number 1 because that really, if you don't get the right gospel, then all the rest of it doesn't matter. It absolutely blows my mind how even in mega churches that have incredible social media ministries, they don't get the gospel right. I hear people say things like, you are the perfect creation of God. And I hear people really honing in on the love of God, and they never talk about the wrath of God. They say things like, well, God's not mad at you. He's furious with you, and what you deserve is hell, right? Like, we've got to get the gospel right. And if all you're doing is giving them fluffy duffy, on the other side of that, if all you're doing them is like lighting a lighter under their chin and say you're going to hell if you don't get saved, that's wrong too. But we got to get the gospel right. We have to make sure that we communicate God is holy, we are not. You need to repent and believe in Jesus. We use the word repent, and tons of people get saved, but we explain what it means. And I would say, with this point is, if you don't know how to effectively communicate the gospel, if you make it too complicated, or you're not really sure even how to put it into words in an effective manner to where, not where church people understand it, not where Miss Sally, who's 85 years old, that's been a Christian for 50 years, goes, bless the Lord, yes, repent, be baptized. People don't understand that language. Then you need to watch somebody that does know how to communicate it, and you need to copy them. You need to just straight plagiarize them, because if it's anything we got to get right, it's got to be the message of the gospel. And if you're going to see people get saved, you got to put it in a way where lost people will understand it. If you're talking about justification, and sanctification, and glorification, and all this other crap that people do not care about, you got people walking through your church that are just trying to figure out how they're going to make it through the next 6 hours, and you're talking about all this theological junk and making it too complicated, you can forget it. People are checking out. On the same sense, if you're making it all fluff and all pragmatic, just self-help bullcrap that's like, and just emotionalism. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Just emotionalism. We're going to get you stirred up so that we can count your number and your card that you said you made a decision with, and you really don't have a desire to see them discipled. You're just looking for tasteless salt. I heard Francis Chan say one time, why do churches want tasteless salt? So they can say their pile's bigger. That's really what a lot of churches do. We have more decisions than everybody else, and we got more people coming through the doors. They're not really looking for flavor. Get the gospel right. Get the right gospel. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just a pet peeve of mine, and it drives me bananas. Number 2, get the right plan. Get the right plan. And I'll explain this as best I can. Sermon series plans. Matthew chapter 9, the harvest is plentiful, right? Constantly see this symbolism of, when people get saved, it's a harvest, it's fruit. Well, if you talk to a farmer, they don't wake up when it's harvest time and go, oh man, I'm so glad that there's fruit out there for us to harvest. It takes months of them sowing seed, of them getting the dirt ready, of doing everything, and we've got a real problem in the church of people waking up on Sunday morning and using the Holy Spirit as an excuse to be lazy. And so if you're not planning out your sermon series, if you're not praying through what you're doing, if you're not thinking ahead of time, people ask me all the time, like, how do you do sermon prep? And I'm like, it never stops. Like, how many hours do you do? I can't answer that. It never stops. I got a note on my phone. These guys will tell you where I'm constantly writing things down and thinking about sermons that are coming up. So get the right plan. Plan harvest days. Know when your harvest days are. There's some pretty obvious ones. Anybody know when harvest days are? Easter. Right. Easter. Any other harvest days y'all can think of? Christmas. Right. So you got to be smart, and you got to go, I know we're going to have a bunch of lost people here at Easter. I know we're going to have, this ain't nothing new to you guys. You guys know this, and you got to plan around it. So plan. Vision casting, motivational evangelism series. This is why sermon calendaring is so important, because what do you guys think? Since when people are invited to come to church on Easter, they're 84% more likely to come on Easter. What do you think leading up to Easter would be probably the best thing you could preach on if you want to see people come to church and get saved?
Invite a friend.
Invite a friend. Evangelism. Teach your church. Leading up to Christmas. This is a great month for you to bring a friend to Christmas Eve service because there's something nostalgic about it. People love it. And so train them on how to do that, and that only happens if you plan. You've got to have a sermon calendar, and honestly, if you don't have a sermon calendar, then everything else in your church is going to be in disarray too, because everything else needs to kind of line up with what you're teaching too. So if you're pushing evangelism, your kids' ministry needs to be pushing evangelism, because you'll get a bunch of new kids on Easter. If you're pushing evangelism, your student ministry needs to be pushing it. So get the right plan. Plan out. Church planners are notorious for not planning. And I get it. You can wake up on a Sunday morning and the Lord could tell you, it happened to me 2 weeks ago, right guys? But it hadn't happened 2 years prior to that, where I woke up on a Sunday morning and like God said, change your sermon and do this. But plan. Like you got to plan, especially if you're going to have a staff of people working with you and you want to see people get saved, you got to get everybody working together. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty simple. Most of these you guys know. And so they're not going to be. Number 3, get the right style. Get the right style. Yeah, I'll explain it. I just tried to make these sound good. So, another word for evangelism in our culture is marketing. And so you got to figure out what your style is going to be and who your church is. I just want to make a couple of points with this because I've been guilty of doing some things wrong, especially when I first started. Graphics are super important. Social media, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute, is super important. If you're going to do radio advertising, you've got to figure out what your style is going to be. If you're going to do your sermons online, whatever it is, here's what I'm trying to say. Most churches market to church people. Mm-hmm. And so stop it. Stop sending flyers out and spending $5,000 to send a flyer to people that says, we're having a series on eschatology. Who do you think that gets that? Or even end times. Who do you think gets that? You know what I mean? Church people look at that and they go, end times, eschatology. You are not reaching people that are far from God. Make sure you get, and I would suggest that you get some lost people and ask them. They'll tell you. But does this look good or does this look bad? The great thing about lost people is they're super honest, and they'll tell you. Church people are the ones that are liars because they always say, "Great sermon, brother," you know, and "Oh, that looks great." And you send it out, and nobody comes in and gets saved. So get the right style. Make sure you market to people that don't know Jesus. Also, know your community. Know your community. The two most successful things we ever did in our church were in Crossville. I'm from Knoxville. And I have never hunted a day in my life, okay? I'm a city boy. But I'll just tell you about one of them. The most successful Christmas we ever had in our church, we themed it Hillbilly Christmas. Because we're in Crossville, Tennessee, and people flipped out. It was a madhouse. People were wearing overalls. We had people bringing their deer heads in to decorate the stage with. I mean, the community just was like, I can get behind some hillbilly Christmas. But church people were like, oh my gosh, that's blasphemy. Hillbilly Christmas, what? It needs to be all about the manger. And it needs to be all about, I get it. It's not for them though. Hillbilly Christmas was for the people that didn't know Jesus that thought, that sounds cool. One time we did a redneck Easter. We called the series Redneck. And we had more people baptized. Man, it was insane. I think that Christmas we had, gosh, Jeff, what was it? 100 people saved or something like that or something. It was something insane. It was about 3 or 4 years ago. But know your community. Again, know the right style. This is marketing. This is evangelism. It's the same thing. Don't try to be something that your community isn't or you're not. Now, I know that makes sense to everybody, but guess what? You're probably going to have to change. Paul said, I become all things to all men. And so, let me say it this way. There's way too many churches out there that are in communities that are nothing like Charlotte, North Carolina, but they're all trying to be Stephen Furtick. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So
actually, Stephen took his body after me. I just want you to know
Craig
that.
Rochelle. So. He's too, man. He's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't don't be Stephen Furtick, be you, you know? And I was guilty of that at first. I was trying to kind of, you don't know who you are, you're kind of trying to figure out who you are, so you kind of try to copy other people. So don't copy other people, be you. Be who the community needs you to be. Don't try to copy Craig Rochelle. Don't try to be Steve Taboo. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it. You be you. Does that make sense to everybody? Get the right style. Number 4, get the right introduction. The front door is no longer Sunday mornings. And if you think that, you need to get up to speed on where our culture is. Every single person that walks through the door of our church, they don't say, well, we just looked you up in the yellow pages and we came and checked it out. They all say, we've been watching online. We found you on Facebook. Somebody shared something on Facebook. The new front door of the church is online. It's not your flyers that you're sending out in the mail. It's none of that. They are going to check you out online first. Get the right introduction. You have to have some type of presence on social media. The first 2 years of our church, I was in charge of the social media. It was it. It took us like 3 years to get to 1,000 likes. And it was about consistency. Because the bad thing about church planners are we're not consistent with nothing except when we know we're going to preach, right? And so I had to discipline myself and make myself a post. And then eventually I had to give it away and give somebody a schedule. But don't start social media and then not post nothing for 3 months and then start it up again because you don't see results. It takes time, it takes effort, and it's something that you're probably going to have to do at the beginning. But get the right introduction. And again, be who you are. Be who you are. Don't try to be Elevation Church. Don't try to be Life Church. Because I'm going to tell you, you want to know something? Y'all want to know a secret? Lost people don't even know who the heck Stephen Furtick is.
Yep.
They don't give a crap about who Craig Rochelle is. They don't care at all. They don't care that I said crap, even if some of y'all cared just now. Like, they don't care about that stuff. They don't care about that stuff. So you got to get over it. And you got to get into their mindset and understand they don't know anything about the church world. We live in this little bubble. Yeah. And when we go to Exponential, we're like, oh, there's Francis Chan. Oh, he shook my hand, you know. But Francis Chan, I promise you, does not walk through the mall and people stop him that don't know Jesus and go, oh my gosh, oh, your new book letters to the church just changed my life, man. You know, so understand that. I didn't get saved till I was 18, and I think I try to get inside the head of lost people, and it's harder and harder the longer I pastor because I'm just around church people, right? That's why you got to get lost people around you, and that's why you got to get young people around you too. And so you got to constantly be picking their brains, and you got to admit when you're old and you're wrong too. That's an extra point. Amen, y'all. Like, you don't know. You don't know what the heck's going. Brandon's teaching me about social media all over again because guess what? It's changed since 6 years ago. It's completely different. You know, it's like what we were doing a year ago doesn't even work anymore. And so now I'm going, how in the world are you doing that? And he's teaching me, and so. But I've got to be humble enough to say if it reaches lost people, you know what I mean? Not, well, I'm the pastor, and this is how we're going to do it. So, another reason you get into church planning, right? Get the right introduction, though. Start small if you need to. If you stream your sermons through an iPhone, stream them through an iPhone. It's fine. Facebook Live is one of the greatest things ever. We've got a YouTube channel. We had a Vimeo channel. They get no views. If they don't watch it on Facebook Live, they don't watch it anymore. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. Everybody's on Facebook. It's the new phone book. It's the new centrally located thing where everybody finds everything they need. It's the yellow pages now. And so if it's on an iPhone, do it on an iPhone. We didn't even have video in our church for 3 years. I used to do the whole audio thing. Y'all remember audio sermons? You post those up online. You know, now everything's video. So just be who you are. Be who you are. Again, I did that for 3 years. I did it. I did it. Because I knew the front door was online. Before a lost person's going to step in our church, they're going to listen to my sermon online. So every week, I recorded it on my iPhone. I plugged my iPhone up to my computer. I don't know how they do it now because I haven't done it in so long. I dragged the voice memo over. I renamed it, got into our website, dropped it in, made sure it was cut right. Make sense, you know? So these are important things that usually fall by the wayside because we're too busy with somebody fussing about how loud the music is. So you got to prioritize. Am I offending anybody? I hope so.
Can you take a minute, Josh, and tell us how you've changed your social media and for outreach? What are you doing differently?
Yeah, well, when we first started, I would just post like about the sermon series coming up, post a graphic when I was doing it. Well, then we got a social media coordinator, and she started posting up sermon clips. And that worked great, 30 to 60 second sermon clips. We really used Facebook for a long time as like our bulletin, essentially, is what it was. We didn't print bulletins, we didn't have any money, and everybody was on Facebook. So we just communicated everything through that. And that's fine, and some churches need to do that. In fact, if you're a smaller church, I think that would be more effective than wasting money on bulletins. But we just posted like, hey, go to our website and check this out, or listen to last week's sermon, or hey, don't forget your Halloween candy for the Halloween event this week. And we really centralized everything on Facebook. Well, then we went through a period where we started teaching our people, and we still do this, and I was literally on the platform when I was preaching say, I need everyone in here right now to pull your phone out, check into this church, and share the sermon that we're streaming right now. And that's when we really picked up a ton of new likes, because everybody's on Facebook. And when you have 100 people sharing the sermon, checking in, as of this moment, we've got like 5,000 check-ins or something where people have checked into our church. Well, when you check in, everybody sees that. And again, it's marketing. It's brand notification. Oh, they're at Revolution Church. What's that church? I've never heard of that church before. And the same thing with sharing your posts. But now what we're doing is we're getting ready to change our social media. We're not experts on this at all, okay, y'all? We're just kind of playing with it. What we've noticed is, and again, we're trying to learn from the bigger churches, is we no longer get likes or views on the sermon clips that we used to do that were just kind of plain video sermons. And the, hey, remember to bring your candy. Now we're getting likes with still images, mainly. And so like, it's went from sermon clips to sermon quotes. And they have to be personal. People like personal. Not just like, used to we would put the sermon quote on a background graphic for the series. Well, now it has to be a picture of whoever's preaching on the stage, looking like they're preaching, with a quote like last week it was, following Jesus gives peace, but it also comes with a price. And so it's a picture of me standing there with the quote next to me. We'll get 50 likes now. But you got to just keep changing it, man. You got to keep changing it. Brandon, you could speak more to that too. All the filters we use now, and all the weird graphics that, and it's amazing because all this stuff's on phones now, and it's super easy. You don't have to be a Photoshop expert. You don't. Literally, there's an app called Canva that I'm using right now.
What's it called?
Canva, and it's got all these free templates, and you just play with it and fill it in, and it looks like you've done something like on Adobe. It's like crazy.
Spell it.
C-A-N-V-A.
C-A-N-V-A.
Yeah.
We started paying for Canva.
What are you gonna
It
tell
was
me
like
about?
$13, and you can add people on your team too,
Yep.
so I can see
Yep.
what other people are doing. And I suck at that
Yep.
so much,
Yep.
but I did our sermon series graphic in about an hour
That's right.
on Canva.
That's right.
And another thing was Sunday Social.
Yep.
They have free sermon graphics up there.
Yep.
And you can get pay for an advanced thing. It's like $9 a month.
Yep.
And it's like pre-done graphics.
Yep.
It's great.
There's lots of free graphics and stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. But yeah, social media is important. And for me, it's hard because I kind of am a social media person, but not like young people are. So I've got young people that really help me out with that. What was I on? Did I just say get the right introduction? Anybody else got any questions on the first four? Any questions? No? Number 5, support the right ministries. Support the right ministries. At some point, I think one of my giftings that I'm strong in is evangelism. But there was a point where I would say saturation would be the word, where the people that I was going to reach would kind of hit a level where not I'd reached everybody I was going to reach, but it's a small town. I'm in Crossville. Everybody knows me after so many years. And now I'm called to bring people around me in the right ministries to be able to see more people get saved. And so now, this year, we've got more students and kids getting baptized, where used to it was all adults my age. Does that make sense? Well, now I've got the right people around me because I'm supporting the right ministries, and we're seeing a totally different age group and totally different people getting saved. But support the right ministries. make sure that, I talk about all this, about getting into the mindset of a lost person and making sure you do things for them, not for the church people. Make sure that your worship person understands what your vision is, and it's to get lost people saved. And as much as you want to sing the 10 different stanzas of that great hymn that's 200 years old, half the language in it, lost people don't understand, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So make sure your song choice and those types of things are easy to sing, easy to understand. Groups, make sure you've got the right groups person. I've been blessed with an incredible staff, and it took me about 5 years to get there, where the synergy and the way we're all working off each other now is like, it's amazing to see what happens. But with groups, Jeff, he has cornhole tournaments, and the groups probably, they keep people coming, but the great thing is people get in those groups when they're not even saved. Would you say, Jeff? Mm-hmm. And then they end up getting saved, and they end up getting baptized, and it's actually the best thing that we have. If a lost person gets in a group first, you'll keep them. But because they'll stick with it. But the same thing with youth ministry. We got the right youth person, and what are you running, 60 to 80 now? And not only is he running 60 to 80, he's got 10 of them that are regularly serving. They're the first ones that get there on Sunday mornings to put out flag banners in the parking lot. Teenagers, they're baptizing their friends. We've baptized more teenagers this year than ever. But it's because I'm letting Brandon just go with it, and he's rolling. I think your youth ministry should be somewhere around 10%. So if you're running like 100 people, you should have at least 10 youth coming on Sunday mornings. And so that's how you know you're supporting the youth ministry right. And then preferably 20%. And I'd say this too about youth ministry. Let me say this. The goal with youth ministry and the goal with groups, you guys I'm sure will back me up on, we were just talking about this yesterday, is not to get students just there on Wednesday nights. And it's not to just get people to a group. Mm-hmm. The only time of the week, this is what we've realized, the only time of the week the entire church comes together is when, y'all?
Sunday mornings.
Sunday mornings. Mm-hmm. So it's all to funnel these people into Sunday mornings. Mm-hmm. Brandon does not just want to have 100 kids on Wednesday night to make him feel good and affirm him. And if you have a youth minister that just wants to lift himself up and basically be the own pastor of his own micro church, you've got the wrong person. You want somebody that's going to work synergistically with the church to get them plugged into the church as a whole. Because what Brandon's seeing now is kids who's bringing their families. And now the moms and dads are getting baptized. That's right? We talked about that yesterday. Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah. And so his goal, like his end goal is not, oh, they came on Wednesday night, they're coming on Wednesdays. His end goal is they're coming on Sundays. They're serving on Sundays. They're a part of the church. So just to throw that in there, same thing with groups, right, Jeff? We don't want them just to come to a group. It's okay if they do. We're not like, judging them or anything. But the whole thing around it is we want you to come on Sundays. We want you to come on Sundays. We want you to come on Sundays to be a part of the body. To be a part of the body. To be a part of the body. How many kids just went to youth ministry growing up and never got involved in the church that are as far from God as anybody else now? Mm-hmm. Most estimates say about 85%. That's a good estimate. That walk away when they hit college age. And I think that's a big part of it. They're not a part of the church. And so for us, kids is the same way. Support the right ministries. For our kids' ministry, we have a clear-cut way for parents to be able to lead their kids to the Lord. Jackie's made cards, because our thing is we know we can get a bunch of kids to make a decision. Again, tasteless salt. You turn the lights off in the room, you get a flashlight underneath your thing, and you say, everybody, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to hell. Every kid in the whole room is going to be like, I want to get saved and baptized, right? But we really put it on the parents to do that, and make it, you got to train the parents on how to do that. Again, support the right ministries. Another way to say this whole point is get the right leaders around you so you can develop the right culture, because it's all about culture. People ain't going to get saved if you don't have an overall culture of evangelism and want to see people set free and meet Jesus. And so, for some of us, that may mean you got to get rid of some people. Because if you got somebody that's too churchy, nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of churchy churches out there. I'm not even judging that. But if they're too churchy and they're not willing to change, for lost people, then they don't need to be with you. I'm just saying, you got to get the right leaders around you. I mean, nothing will suck the evangelism out of a church quicker than someone that is unwilling to change. One of your leaders, one of your staff people, a worship leader, a student pastor that is unwilling to have the same vision that you have. Because this is the vision, right, guys? Like, I know we put it a bunch of different ways and we try to make it fancy. Here's our 3 things we're trying to do. What's yours, Steve? Yours is
Love God, love people, impact the world.
Oh man, that sounds so good. It's so much better.
I stole it straight from Heibel's, baby.
Yeah, we got 4 values we stole from New Spring.
New Spring.
Save people, serve people, found people, find people, growing people, change. And you can't do life alone. Sounds so good. Really, the mission is the same for all.